Okay, I think let's start. Thanks for those of you who joined very, very promptly. Good morning in the UK. Good afternoon from Hong Kong. Thanks for joining our e-documentation webinar today. Shame we can't do it all in person. I'd love a trip over to the UK so I could meet you all in person, but hopefully we can do that next time. So thanks all for joining the webinar. Just a few things before we kick off. So the session will be recorded, and we'll be sending a copy of the video to all the attendees. So please bear that in mind. Also, we'd very much welcome questions through the presentation. So if you mouse over the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A section. We'd welcome you tapping in some questions in that section. We've allowed some time at the end to cover questions. If we do run out of time, because I'm talking too much, then we'll answer your questions over email instead. Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks for joining our webinar. So we'll just start with some introductions. So just firstly, nice to meet you. I'm Duncan. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer, actually based in Hong Kong. I've been working in supply chain technology for quite a long time. I call myself an old timer. So long, I'm not even sure I'm proud of how long. So about 15 years in this space, working with EV Cargo or associated companies. I guess the benefit for me of being in Hong Kong, and you'll see later on in the slides, we look after different markets in this space. So of course, we have customers in the UK, and many of you are joining from the UK. We also have customers in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and based in Asia. And some of the themes we're talking about today, there's a different angle on those themes from the different parts of the world. So hopefully I can share some insights in that area. So that's me. Nice to meet you all. I'll let Julie introduce herself.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, good morning, everybody. I am Julie Dorman. I'm the Logistics Product Manager at EV Cargo Technology. A little like Duncan, I'm also an old timer. So been around EV Cargo and it's what it was previously known as for about 25 years actually now. So working through it, sort of a number of different areas and roles within the business. And most recently, obviously, in technology and the product development. So as a product manager, so I'm responsible for the features and functionality of the logistics products, so including building the roadmap, planning and releasing of those new features and functionalities out. So yeah, thanks for joining, and yeah, we'll get started. So the agenda, so the things we're going to walk through today, bit of a welcome and introduction to us. Look at the e-documentation, so from an industry context perspective, then going into the process flow and solutions demo. Then we're going to talk you through partner collaboration. So again, a bit of industry context and solution, and that's something that's kind of coming soon. And then we've got some time at the end for some Q&A. As Duncan said, if you can get any questions across, we'll look at those at the end.
Cool, thanks Julie. So look, I know almost everyone joining this webinar will know who we are, but I have to quickly just explain for those who might not know who we are and what we do. So we are EV Cargo Technology, so we're the technology division of EV Cargo. So EV Cargo is one of the largest privately owned British-based logistics companies. So we have a pool of logistics companies as part of EV Cargo. So we have global forwarding, we have logistics, we have transportation, we have some other 4PL offering, and we're the technology part of that. So as you can see from the slide there, we very much focus on supply chain, end-to-end supply chain technology. Logistics has long kind of been probably our strength, we would say, and you'll see from a slide later, we also have some functionality and some modules that go a bit further upstream into sourcing and compliance. As I sort of mentioned in my introduction, so we do have a customer base that does go outside of the UK, and we'll reference some of those customers later on in the presentation. Towards the bottom of the slide there, so one of the main themes bringing this webinar together is how to try to help retailers work with their suppliers. We're going to go into a very logistics specific example with the e-documentation. We're also going to talk about partner collaboration, which is mainly going to help or potentially help retailers interact with their suppliers. So we obviously are used to working with suppliers, and most of our solutions have suppliers logging in every day, whether it's updating orders or doing order confirmations, doing bookings, et cetera, et cetera. So we already have many suppliers logging into our solutions. So just a quick intro to who we are. Okay, so as mentioned, we do largely focus on supply chain solutions, but we do have a bit more. We don't have time today to cover the other modules. We've actually done some webinars on, for example, packaging compliance in the past. So a couple modules there that we're talking a lot with clients at the moment are packaging compliance, so helping retailers look at how they pack products, look at optimizing the packaging and having vendors confirm how they pack through the software. And ethical trade towards the bottom is also an area of quite a bit of interest right now with our retail customer base. So recording factories that are being used and the audit statuses, etc. But today we're going to cover more on the top right, Julie.
Yes, so those items highlighted in blue, the logistics modules, so order management, shipment management and delivery management. So I guess a little bit around those for those who don't know. I'd suggest looking at the attendees. Most of you do know briefly what those are about, but the order management is really about providing kind of collaboration and visibility of purchase orders prior to shipments. Milestones in that enable kind of early warning and visibility of risks or delays to potential to shipments coming up. The shipment then focuses on the planning and execution of those international shipments, and then followed by the delivery. So that's used to plan and manage the deliveries once they're at destination, to get them into the DC, to ensure the sort of visibility and smooth stock flow once it's at destination. So what we're talking about today is that e-documentation, and that really sort of sits across those as well. So it enables benefits across all three of those modules.
Just one other comment, Julie, which I probably missed from the last slide. So we're talking about product software today, and as part of our journey over the last 10 years, we've tried to follow the market, and many of you will work with our software or other software providers in supply chain. We're trying to productize what we have, so and we've done that with the logistics offering, and we're going to show you some of that today. There's other areas there on that slide that we are trying to productize. So when we show you some of our customers shortly, we'll explain how we've built custom solutions in the space that we're going to show later. And we want to try and take some of that retail insight and intellect and build it into products. So that's a main theme of us. So that slide we're showing now, we want to beef that up in more depth and more breadth with intellect from our retail customer base. Which kind of leads me to this one. So yeah, this isn't there to bash you with heaps of brands. That wasn't really the point of the slide. The point was just to pick out a few examples and show how certainly in the lower half of the slide, how we have some Australia, New Zealand and South Africa based clients that we work with. When we show you the e-documentations demonstration later on, if I just pick out Kathmandu. So we started to work on some of these processes with them a few years ago, and we set up e-packing lists and e-commercial invoices, and they asked us to allow suppliers to generate inner and outer carton labels from the solution. So we were able to get into this space and build something specific to Kathmandu. So we had experience in doing that. But really, as I said just now, we want to be able to productize that and develop product that's available and hopefully useful to all retailers or all customers using our product. The other comment to make on this is when we talk about partner collaboration later on. So being based in Hong Kong, we work quite closely with sourcing offices. So one or two of our customers we've worked with have had challenges sharing information with their vendors and suppliers. So many of you attending do work for very large retailers where you may have hundreds of suppliers, and you may need to share SOPs, manuals, documents, user guides, videos with your vendor base, whether it's GM or clothing, and you may want to send information that's category specific. So some of the sourcing businesses we work with have challenges in this area. So when we cover the partner collaboration towards the end, just want to pick up some themes that we've learned from working with our clients, and again, try to build software for them and now incorporate that into product.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan. So the same really applies for the UK customer base. As you can see those at the top. We've done some work in previous years prior to kind of becoming more of a software house that focuses on product. So we've got experience, working with people before, and then trying to get that best practice through that experience across, the UK and obviously with APAC and Duncan's team to build sort of product software that answers these e-document problems that we recognise and hear about. Okay, so moving on to our industry context. So some of the common challenges that we understand and we hear about. So looking at sort of control and visibility in the supply chain. So looking at lead times, trying to reduce those. Administration errors is obviously one that's vitally important to make sure that data accuracy is there. SKU level visibility, so getting down to the lowest level of visibility across products to understand where everything is at any given time in the supply chain. Cost control, predominantly destination, so how do we go about moving any physical activity back to origin, either through the logistics service provider as an option, or the supplier, so trying to use that lead time that you've got within the product being produced to maximise and make the best use of that time. Maximising the warehouse efficiency, so at destination, how does that come through more quickly, more efficiently? Automation of current processes, how do we increase that? How does that, improve? Improve turnaround times at the DC. So really about, not having stock held in DC, having the least amount of time possible from the stock coming in the doors, from when it's been shipped and delivered in, to the stock going out on sale through e-commerce or direct to stores. And then trying to reduce the bottlenecks of receiving docs in the UK through any sort of, through manual processes they're doing, which take time and effort. And then finally, looking at the sort of corporate social responsibility aspect and making the process environmentally friendly, reducing reams of paper, the requirement to have everything on a piece of paper sat in front of you and having access to that electronically. So those are the common challenges that we've recognised and are looking at. And then how can technology support that? So going through those challenges, what do we see as the solution to those? So in terms of the supply chain control and visibility aspect, automating the receipt and sorting within the warehouse to be able to speed that up, make that more accurate and quicker to increase the efficiency. Using information, so using the data that we've got that's readily available and reusing that, having validation on it to make sure it's accurate, so it reduces the kind of data input and the risk of that data becoming inaccurate. Confirmation of carton concepts at SKU level, so knowing what is in every single carton at the lowest possible level, reducing the touch points of that. Then looking at cost control at destination. So again, logistics service providers looking at supply fields based on allocations, so understanding what's got to be in what cartons and where at what given time. Looking at automated receipting and sorting at destination as well. And then the corporate social responsibility, providing electronic versions of packing lists and invoices, making sure that's available, centralizing that documentation and making it more simpler and easier to get to, as well as reducing the paper waste on that. So moving into the process flow and demo.
Yeah, sure. That's back over to me. So for those of you on this webinar, this is probably like ABCs of international supply chain and PO management. So you probably don't even need me to to walk you through this process. You probably know it back to front, upside down. But we thought it would be helpful before we do an online demo just to give it the process positioning, so you can explain how our solution supports the end-to-end process. So just really quickly, this is a full container, a CY/CY example, but yeah, we can support consolidation as well, so CFS/CY. But in a CY/CY example, so obviously we need to integrate POs from our customer's ERP, and that gets fed through into our logistics solution. The vendor or factory physically produce the order. Through our solution, vendors actually can do an e-order confirmation beforehand if necessary. But then once they've produced the order, they can do an online cargo booking in the system, which then flows through to online packing list generation, and they can confirm the number of cartons at SKU level and generate carton labels, and also an associated commercial invoice to match with the order and the shipment. So then for a factory load, obviously the labels would get applied at the factory, containers would be loaded, and then taken by the origin LSP to the container yard, and then the shipment's actually executed, so put on a vessel and then shipped to destination, so shipped to the UK. And then so electronically then we're obviously sending electronic messages to go along with the stock, and the advantage in this case is we have a much more granular level ASN. So rather than just sending a shipment level ASN, we can really go down to carton level and SKU level and say which SKUs are in which cartons, on which vessels, in which containers, and that gives a nice detailed granular heads up to the retailer in terms of what stock's coming in. So and on the left hand side there, so when your sales orders or customer orders are coming in, you can then match that with either stock that's already been received or stock that's on the way, and that can help speed up the destination processing with the automated receipt and sorting, and also help you with your lead times at destination to move the stock more quickly and get the stock to either store or to your customers, so the sales can be processed quicker, which is really one of the whole points of this. So that's the sort of process context. Again, it might be pretty straightforward for all of you on this call, but we thought that would be a way of introducing the demo and what Julie's going to show next.
Okay, thank you. So a little bit of scene setting, I guess, for the solution demo and what we've actually got available with regards to the sort of product. So the documentation covers the three elements you've got on the screen. So the packing list, the generation of the carton label, and the commercial invoice. So the key kind of supplier created documentation that's available. So we've got some color-coded elements in here to help me as well as you, to be honest. So orange is what's available currently in our product, and I'll demonstrate. Those are in black are available, won't be demonstrated. Just really want to show you kind of the simplicity of it and the kind of base structure of what we've got. And then we've got future development. So, this is a product life cycle. So we will continue to iterate on this and continue to develop it. The main core really here is, it's in its simplest form is creating those documents. And that's fairly straightforward. What then becomes, what layers on top of that is all the business requirements and logic around processes across, different business requirements. So, for example, you're looking at, whether you allow single or multiple SKUs into individual cartons, when you want to lock down somebody being able to edit or create that documentation, so that you've got a finalized version at a single point in time. When we look at that across different businesses, those rules are different, so it's just being able to cater for all those different things, and the same with regards to creating SSCCs against labels, and approval processes as well. So if somebody wants to approve something, amend something rather, is that okay to do, or does that need to be approved, so that it's restricted and you've got control over those processes. So as I say, it's building upon the simplified aspect of this, which is just creating documentation, and that's where the complexity comes in. As I say, we will continue to develop this, as we understand more, as things change, as there's more business requirements, as that changes, we continue to just evolve the product. So it really is it's a never-ending process, really. So that's kind of where we are, and really what we're going to show. So let me flick over to the demo and walk you through what we've got. So hopefully you can see that screen.
Yep, that's
Can you verify,
updated.
Duncan? Thank you.
Yep, no worries.
Excellent. So again, for those of you who know and work with us and our products, some of these things will be familiar. Maybe some rebranding and some sort of slight changes in screens, but in terms of kind of navigation and those sorts of things, some of this should hopefully be familiar. So these are supply documents. So the supplier would log on to the system, as they currently do now for many of our other processes that are there. So I think Duncan's already mentioned things like purchase order confirmation, production checks. So the vendor already does those things in many cases. So it's using that same logon and that same sort of process. So it falls within documentation. As I said earlier, this sort of documentation sits across, all the modules. It's not specific to a module. So they're housed in here. So we've got our packing list and our commercial invoice. So following a process of that Duncan walked through just now on the flow, the purchase order is received in. It goes through some pre-shipment checks. It then gets booked in for shipment, and once the vendor has booked that in for shipment, that they can then create the packing list. So using any of the information they've got here to find the shipment that they want to create their packing list for. So it pulls back some header level information. So if it is a factory load, they can allocate the container seal, equipment house build number. As we kind of mentioned before, the key is really trying to reduce the input, reduce the risk of errors. So pulling through data, reusing data, reducing the administration on it, and trying to enable the accuracy and the validation across it. So we can see down here, these are the items we want to create a packing list for. So I'm going to select all of those. So we can see the lowest level of data here. So we go down to the SKU. So we understand that we've got, the purchase order, the product, and the SKU information. You see the color, size, description against that as well. So this is pulling information through from purchase order and a booking. So that enables the user to amend that if anything has changed between the booking and the current position. Then they would simply allocate the cartons really against that. So what cartons are these in? So the system recognises that this is going in our first carton, so it knows the number of cartons, so our last carton would be this one. And then the user can simply go through and add all the carton information in. Can then say what carton types they're in. We've got a copy down here, or we can allocate the cartons, so that is maintained in a list, or alternatively, if we don't have a defined list which helps control the carton types that are being used, the user can then put in the carton types that they're in. If there's a split against any of this, so this is not in a single carton type, or there is a mixed carton, the user can then create a secondary line of this through the add and delete rows to then break that down further. But for the benefit of this, I just want to keep it fairly simple and allocate our carton type information here. So then we can see information through here, through our inners, weights, so net and gross weights, and cubic measurements here. So they can update that. Obviously, it will have pulled through from the last milestone that was achieved. Again, just trying to reduce the amount of keying that goes in, but making sure that they can update that and make sure we've got the latest information as well. So to create our packing list, we selected our products, we've allocated the cartons to it, we know what carton type it is, so we can then just create our packing list. That then provides a standard output. I'll have a quick drink. So that then provides your packing list report. So we've got that in either an Excel or PDF format, and the user can then view that, print that, download that as they need to. Okay, but that's then readily available in the system for all users across the system to have access to. Again, so it's a centralized portal, everybody can have access to it. It's not being emailed, it's not necessarily being printed, and that's in a standardized format there. Okay, so we've created our packing list. It's fairly straightforward. We've got a standardized processes, we've got a standard output, so that helps make sure everybody recognizes and looking at the same thing. So we can now see that we've got that in our packing list status, but we don't have any labels. So we now know that we need to create our labels for this. So we've got our items selected, and we know we're going to have, we want labels for 900 cartons. So we can then view and print our labels. This will then create, again, a standardized label. And that can either have the SSCC on it, or which obviously offers greater benefits. If it doesn't have the SSCC, you still get the benefits of a single way of working, standardized processes, you know, a standardized format of labeling. Obviously, if you then have an SSCC on your label, you can then look towards those automated processes of being able to scan those and get that information through.
I'll just jump in. There was a question around vendors updating packing lists through the portal, and essentially that's what we're looking at now. So we're looking at the vendor log on and the vendor access. So this is what the vendor's doing. So just to answer that question that came through, this is exactly what we're doing now, having the vendor go in and confirm down to SKU level what the packing list is.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you can see that on the screen. That's our carton label, standardized carton label that we've created. So has got the ability to read that manually, so we understand what products are in it, and a little more information about that product and SKU, carton numbers, and then the SSCC, which is automatically allocated to it. So as we scroll down, we can see the numbers of the SSCs go up as our incremental referencing is allocated. Okay, so that's, as I say, it is fairly simple. It's creating a packing list. You get a standard output. You can then create a carton label. Again, you get a standard output of that, and offers the option to have an SSCC against it, or just take the benefit of a standardized label and process. So we've then got the commercial invoice, which can either sit alongside the back of it or separately, but again, it just creates that centralized documentation pack, which can then be accessed through the system. So again, using our references that we recognize, it's pulled the data through, it understands, you know, what's made up of that booking, what it's expecting, it's pulling unit prices through. There's going to be configuration around whether that would be editable or not, if you allow suppliers or vendors to change that unit price, but it will always just take it based on the latest information that we have available from that purchase order. So simply allocate the invoice dates. We have obviously banking information which we can hold against the supplier records, non-mandatory requirements, but for the sake of this, I've pulled that through so that can be seen. So then we want to create an invoice for this set of orders or products. And again, this will then create, you know, the standardized documentation, which can support the shipment. So get that Excel again. So there we go. So and again, you know, a standardized document. So the process, you know, is really aimed at reducing time and effort to create those documentations, enabling easy access of that as well through the system, and reduces the preparation and the distribution of those documents as well. So bear with me while I now flick back to the presentation, but hopefully that's given you a flavour of what's there. Make sure I get the right screen here. Duncan, can you validate that I'm back on the?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Back on the slide.
Excellent. So then just to really summarise the benefits of the documentation that we've just sort of simply shown and walked through, reducing our admin, reducing that manual paperwork that needs to be sent, emailed, written out, whatever somebody does with it. Simplifies unloading and receipting process. Again, that document is readily available. Obviously, you can utilise ASNs, which will automatically send information through to WMS systems. You've really got to aim for having your documentation, your information ahead of your actual physical movement of your goods. So it's enabling that to produce a faster speed of sale, improving the accuracy of receipting. So we've got a same sort of source of information through the system, and it all flows. And then stock is easier and faster to find, track, and retrieve effectively. Anything to add on to that, Duncan?
Yeah, well, I have to do my sales piece, I suppose, and as in commercial sales, we'll push the product world. So, no, it's from our side, I think I said at the start of the presentation, we've done similar things for customer specific implementations, but not had something standard. So it's great for us. Like we've had Kmart and Target ask us recently, can my vendors go into the system and generate labels for their stock? And the answer before was no, but hopefully the answer will be yes now, based on the functionality you've seen. And also I think where we can take this is quite interesting as well. So over in Australia, because of the sort of geography of Australia and the relatively short lead times, retailers do port split quite a bit. So one of our clients, Myer, have long split their orders to 4 different DCs, reflecting the major states in Australia. So they'll port split, and they'll also do store allocations as well. And at the moment, the store allocations and item SSCC label allocations, actually, that's supported through a WMS. We'd love to see if we can extend some of this into that space, but that's probably for future world, Julie, I think.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Of course, it's doable. As I say, it's just layering on as we get more requirements and more information in, and we can continue to grow that. So absolutely.
Julie, we had a couple questions, so I know we're going to do it at the end, but I think as this is the major topic, do you mind if we just pick a couple now? There was a couple around printing of labels.
Yep, no worries.
So one of them was around printing labels, and so can the supplier or factory print them in bulk, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so when they produce the labels, it then creates the PDF, which is opened in the sort of local browser, and it will create a single document for all of those labels in that packing list. So it would literally be a hit print, and you would print the whole ream of labels you've created in that single packing list.
Cool. Yeah, there's actually, sorry, there's 2 more. So the other one was around the format of the labels. So because you mentioned, I think, standard product format. So if a retailer has recently maybe refreshed their SOPs and their vendor guidelines and their labeling guidelines, can our product support their specific formats, whether it's size or positioning of the barcodes, these sort of things?
Yeah, absolutely, and actually the same applies for any of the output of documentation. So whether it be the packing list, invoice, or label, we recognise, I think that there will be specific requirements on the output of those, whether it be the way it's displayed, the data that's displayed. So we can simply create customer output documents on top of that. The ones you've seen today are our product standards, so it just gives us an idea that there's the output, and that can be taken as is, but we can absolutely sort of build the output of those documentation for specific customer needs as well.
Cool. Okay, and then sorry, there's one more, really a good question here around factories. So as I understand it, we record the factory on the PO. I think we will do. So if an order we'll record the designated factory against the PO. So can the factory, if it's different from the supplier, can the factory get access to the labels or somehow be sent the labels after the suppliers maybe confirm the packing list, or some other way? Can
Of course.
can it be? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So I guess at the moment it's configured for suppliers, but absolutely, if we've got the factory information, we've got a factory set up, then absolutely they can get that. It's just making sure that we've got the right access, and we restrict that down so the factory only sees what that factory is producing, and we already do that through other elements of the system. So there's no reason why we couldn't extend that to this process as well.
Cool. So if we, because I saw the report that you generated with the list of labels. So if we have the supplier details and email address, and the factory details, email address, then yeah, we could
Correct.
have that sent out as a report.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. As long as we know it, yeah, that can be sent out.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to pin you with those, but they were coming in, so there's more coming through.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway, okay. So okay, cool, awesome. Thanks for that.
Okay.
So should we can leave a little bit more time for questions at the end?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to walk through something called partner collaboration that we talked about at the start. This is also related to how retailers can work with their vendors. This is effectively sort of coming soon functionality for us. So whereas Julie's demo obviously is basically there and ready, this is more coming soon functionality. And I suppose, just summarizing, this is a response to some of the feedback that we hear from our retail customers, and maybe a bit of an advantage of being in Asia. If we can attend some of the vendor conferences that happen, there are some sort of recurring themes that come back from vendors. They may resonate with some of the attendees on this webinar, I'm not sure. But for example, some suppliers will say a retailer is just difficult to work with. There's too many systems to interact with. There might be a system for confirming orders. There might be a system for generating a label. There might be a system for loading a final sample. There might be a system for booking a QC inspection. There might be a system to do the online cargo bookings. So multiple different systems. So that's one of the areas of feedback that we tend to hear. The second one is around suppliers finding it difficult just to get latest information from their retailers. So something that might really sound really simple, just where is the latest vendor SOP, or can I get hold of the latest training manual, either operational or system training manual? Can I get my latest carton in specs or carton instructions? So these kind of things. That's the second area. And then I suppose thirdly, there's, as everyone will know on this webinar, there's a trend to work more as a collaboration rather than a sort of compliance. So work as partners rather than just forcing suppliers to comply to ways of working. So just having more of a interactive kind of relationship. So those are the three sort of major themes. The other one probably I haven't mentioned is down the bottom, where those retailers with disparate vendor base spread over different countries, and maybe 300-400 vendors. It's just a real pain to try and stay on top of all the correspondence and all the information flow. So how do you know, if you send out your revised SOP, how do you know how many of your 300 vendors have actually received it or actually read it or acknowledged? It's just a challenge from an admin's perspective. So those were the main sort of topics that I guess we picked up, and we're hoping with the partner collaboration functionality, it will address some of those concerns or some of those challenges. So for example, the ability to track and report on when suppliers have read collateral or watched a video, and giving suppliers a single entry point, certainly within EV Cargo tech solutions, but potentially to other solutions too. So being able to link across through hyperlinks to other solutions, and then just keeping up with news and updates through one single place. So that's the sort of thinking behind the partner collaboration. What I'm just going to do is just give a really quick look and feel, a quick flavor of it. As I said, it's sort of coming soon, so we can't really do a live demo, but at least give you an idea of how it would look like. So we have a landing page. So this is the entry point for a vendor. So if they logged into the solution, they'd be welcomed by tiles, and we would be adding what we're going to call notifications to the tiles. So for example, If you've got 10 orders that need to be confirmed, you'd be able to be prompted to do that. If you had a number of SOPs to read, also you'd be prompted through the notifications and then navigate through to make the updates that you need. So we have a landing page, a bit like you can see here, and then yeah, from a partner collaboration perspective, there's a few different areas that we've described where our software can hopefully help a little bit with some of the communication. So you can share news and updates through the portal, the partner collaboration portal, and down the bottom there, you can select which suppliers need to receive the news. So, I mean, in theory, if you want to just send announcements to your clothing or footwear suppliers, you can just pick those, so you're not cluttering all your other suppliers with unnecessary information. If you want to make an announcement on a buying trip, you can contact your suppliers through that and let them know that a buyer's on their way on a buying trip, for example. Okay, and yeah, and in terms of documents and videos, so we have clients who might open a new DC or implement a new DC process at destination, and just want to share that with their vendors and say, look, here's how the automation works. This is why we have specific carton sizes. This is why we need the label put in a certain place, and then share that information with their vendors. So if you can see on the screen there, there'll be a link to view a video, open a video up, and then the vendors would need to confirm they've watched the video or seen it and understand it. Other examples we've done in the past is where there's just a welcome message actually from either head of sourcing or head of merchandising, just wanting to be a warm, friendly face to and talk about the brand, the strategy, where the retailer's going. These sort of ideas that we would have through the partner collaboration portal. Okay. Yep. So also fairly self-explanatory, but there'd be the ability to share contact details across all your major departments. So you could share that through the system and maintain those in one place. And I think there's also a section for useful links. So linking to other solutions, so that as I mentioned earlier, a few slides earlier, once a supplier logs in, they can kind of certainly access all they need to from EV Cargo, but also potentially link to other external systems from one place. So trying to answer that challenge of making a retailer easier and simpler to work with. So I think, as I said, we're just trying to give you a bit of a flavour of what's coming and how it looks. And explain some of the areas where we could hopefully make it easier for you to work with your suppliers through this functionality. So, Julie, I'm not sure if there's any other points you wanted to add at all.
No, I don't think so. Thanks, Duncan. We've obviously got 5 minutes or so to cover any sort of more questions or discussion points that we really want to on any of the things that we've talked about today.
Right, I've got a cool. Yeah, there's another question come through. This
Okay.
looks like another good question, which means get ready to scratch your head, Julie.
Thanks.
Look at your. So if so suppliers go online and do their origin bookings. So they go on and do a cargo booking. The question is, I'm going to answer it this way: does the order line information cascade through and populate the e-documentation? So the information they put in the booking, does it then, or could it then pre-populate the packing list and commercial invoice? So, yes. For example, a quantity that they've, yeah. So, would you mind explaining that a bit further? So, it's a good question. They're wondering whether there's how we could avoid any mismatches. Sorry, I'll read the question properly. So, avoiding any mismatches in data, but also making it easier for vendors to update and less admin. And then they can only, if there's an actual genuine difference, they can just go and amend it at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So simple answer is yes. We pull the information into any of the documents, so whether it be the packing list or the invoice, from the latest point, and we've got that information. So that would be the booking. So we combine anything that's not available in the booking with information from the purchase order to make sure that whatever information is in there has come from the latest possible entry point, to make sure that does reduce the keying. It kind of aligns it. That there is the the point at which that can be changed. So if there's a change between the booking being made and the documentation being created, they can change that. So, you know, latest information, most accurate information, obviously, but yeah, pulling that data through from previous milestones or previous data to reduce that point and make sure that we've got you know, a clear kind of process through that is there, and that is what happens.
Cool, fantastic.
Okay.
Great. Okay, just checking if there's any other questions. So we've had a few come through. I think we've answered the ones that have come through. Maybe just give it a any further questions. And while we're doing that, just trying to think if there's any closing comments, Julie. I suppose
yeah, I guess, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, just saying from our side. So for those existing customers who are joining the webinar, again, thank you for joining. We'll be, you know, we'd love to hear your comments and feedback. So whether it's with us at EV Cargo Technology or with our global forwarding division, I'm sure the account managers will be in touch and asking for comments, questions, and feedback. And we'd very much welcome that. And any further suggestions that you guys have, feel free to share. That would be really, really helpful for us. But definitely we'll be in touch. So thank you for taking the time to join. We've got a list of attendees, obviously, and we'll be able to follow up with you either through us at the tech team or through our global forwarding team. So that would be my closing comment. Anything else, Julie?
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, really, you know, we've kind of covered this at a fairly kind of top level. So if anybody wants any more information, a more detailed kind of demo or any kind of information against anything that we've demoed, then yeah, please get in touch. We're more than happy to kind of discuss it, you know, take feedback and provide any more detailed demonstrations that are needed, really.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we finished just under 10 minutes early, which is definitely good news for everybody. So we'll let you carry on with your Wednesday hump day. So I think there's no more questions come through, so we'll leave it there. Thanks again for joining. Julie, thanks so much for preparing and doing the presentation. Appreciate it.
That's okay. Yep. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Appreciate it. Thanks, Duncan.
Okay. We'll say bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Have
Look
a good
forward to meeting
day.
you soon. Bye.
Bye.